So Ruben Amorim continues to fend off questions about form, fitness, European importance and his future in the Northwest. We're going to cover all with the fitness of Leny Yoro, Joshua Zirkzee and Matthijs de Ligt, alongside the importance of the tried and tested with all of your questions. It's been a year of your Theatre of Red. Why, hello there, one and all. I have been slacking in my weekly ramblings due to a rather aggressive form of laryngitis that put me squarely on my arse. I am more or less myself again though, and the sun has been as kind as to pop its head out to welcome me back into the world. Now at this stage, I generally introduce a guest, be that a fellow journalist, a footballer, a sports writer, a podcaster, or a down-to-earth football aficionado. But on this day, I felt it was necessary to return to my radio days of old and to sit solo with a microphone to embrace what has been 1 year, if you can believe it, of Theatre of Red podcasts. Now, I know it may seem bizarre in 2025 that an individual can sit in front of a microphone by themselves, calm and composed, chatting about Manchester United without veering into that mandatory sensationalism that just comes hand in hand with this great football club. But I am happy to do so, despite a certain popular YouTuber declaring me as nothing other than just another chancer. Now, you will be happy to know that unfortunately my little heart did done break when I heard all about that. But as I speak, Ruben Amorim and his Manchester United squad are deep in preparations for their latest tilt at a Premier League 3 points, with the vast majority of eyes peering in the direction of Bilbao on Wednesday. Inevitably, a string of subpar performances and a seemingly unthinkable inability to gain any form of foothold on domestic results has led to the expected dismay of the fan base, and there is a contingent crying for a change in the managerial seat that is growing daily. Now, I have to say, I do find this all very odd, given the obvious lack of desire and the final third intent in comparison to European outings. To be clear, although I'm 100% behind Amorim, I'm not happy with the lacklustre performances or the harrowing Premier League position that we find ourselves in. It's not acceptable for a club the size of Manchester United, and frankly, it is embarrassing. I don't think anybody is going to say anything else. And the man himself has said that. However, one thing that I can't quite wrap my head around is this viewpoint of his unsuitability for the role. And that is because I like to take a step back and factor in each variable into every single equation. Take it when Ten Hag was coming towards the end of his tenure. I regularly attempted to focus on the sum of injuries he was contending with. And that was in an attempt to maybe harbor some form of positivity over a gloomy situation. But when you peel it all back, that was a man who had ample time in the chair with multiple transfer windows in an attempt to shape his Ajax ideals. Amorim has arrived mid-game without any form of pre-season, any credible transfer window, or the desired time to shape his vision in any way. And what truly baffles me is the individuals who veer towards his stubbornness and refusing to work with the squad he has and play to their strengths. I look at this sort of broadly, and I try to be as pragmatic about things as I possibly can, because many of the same individuals will rightfully bemoan the ownership and the damage caused by unsatisfactory signings and illogical ideals. But what benefit can we truly receive in a coach who accepts substandard ideals and complies with mollycoddling the ego of a dressing room of players that many feel don't deserve to wear the shirt in the first place? Is it not for those very reasons that Ten Hag was deemed unsuitable? Let's call a spade a spade. This was a man who played a particular brand of football with Ajax in a very particular system. And then he folded after 2 games and completely changed his mindset, while attempting to learn on the job and manufacture a winning situation from a beaten hand. I ask you this, how can all of this exist? And the solution to the problem that we face ourselves in is to axe the one man who is genuinely trying to shape a tried and trusted vision at Old Trafford. He said it after a comprehensive hammering of Everton last year, And in fairness to the man, he hasn't changed. He continues to speak about it on what feels like an arduous daily basis. And it's not arduous because he's speaking about it. It's arduous because he's being forced to speak about it on a daily basis. For me, it's not rocket science. I find this to be the literal definition of short-term pain with the aim of long-term gain. And when considering that very point, it will always bring me to the decision to hire him and the mindset behind the board in pursuing the man, rejecting his request to delay his arrival to allow some preparation time, and ultimately agreeing to sign a contract for a principal solution of introducing a system devised for a different squad, overseen by a talented coach who is intent on maintaining his integrity. Now, with respect to you and individual opinion, and my willingness to engage in free-flowing conversation with anybody, why would this best-in-class setup hire the man, embrace the inevitable pitfalls of adopting a 3-5-2, and expect him to change everything that he knows within a matter of months? If that is indeed the case we are dealing with, my friends, I can't help but feel that we would have far greater issues to worry about than this dismal league showing and preparations ahead of another Europa League final.
You feel that a final is different, but you can understand that this season has been really tough on everybody. The results and also the change in the staff, and you can feel it in our club. So we are addressing that during the season. We are changing the way we play during the season. We had so many bad results in Premier League, so the environment is tough in the moment. But I guarantee you that when we are preparing a game in Europa League, the environment is a little bit different, and you can feel it, the excitement. So, but you can understand that the environment in this year is really, really tough.
I think for me, it goes without saying that, particularly in a time when ex-players appear hell-bent on airing their opinions and continuously using their platforms to down the manager and the players, the viewpoints of these individuals are not gospel, okay? Regardless of what platform they are presenting these views and opinions, it doesn't mean that this is accurate information. This is the opinion of another individual. Don't get me wrong, by all means, ex-players have a larger understanding of the game from a daily professional perspective. But having the ability to kick a football like a god does not supply the grace to view your point as endlessly accurate and without fault. I find that this is forgotten so much in modern media. The damage that certain United legends are causing with their never-ending agendas and their criticisms, I find it to be amongst the most dangerous and hurtful occurrences that the club endures daily. And what's worse is that certain people who possess fairly limited educations, and I don't say that being any way obnoxious, but these individuals have convinced themselves that they are above being told otherwise. My biggest gripe with this is that their words affect a juvenile audience and impressionable listeners who are attempting to make some semblance of sense from what is a shambolic goings-on at Manchester United, while their buddies celebrate the various success stories at their clubs. While all the while, the one true cancer which has plagued this football club for 2 decades continues to sit idly by, laughing in their ivory towers about the carnage they have caused, the money they've made, and even down to the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his Ineos team are bearing the majority of the brunt from an audience that is partly uneducated about the precarious financial issues that exist. Now, when I speak about financial issues, what am I speaking about? We're talking about everything from the book value of players who are purchased for ridiculous fees, down to the ramifications of disregarding financial fair play, by way of the logic that certain folk have collected from hours of playing Football Manager in their sitting room and then engaging in endless conversation on the likes of Twitter or any other social platform about why their opinion is correct. Naturally, social media will play its part, and like the celebrity YouTuber I have already referenced, who would disregard my word to only go and plagiarize it weeks later, an impressionable audience is lying in wait for a hint of guidance in the face of endless adversity. Manchester United should be doing better. Manchester United should be challenging for the perennial honours on the domestic front and on the continent. This football club should have the best players in the country lining up for an opportunity to play at Old Trafford. I mean, who wouldn't want to step out under those magical lights that bring so much joy to supporters all over the globe? But it is where it is because of the Glazer family and their continued negligence. I don't understand why I have to say this, but Ruben Amorim is not a magician, people. To coin the words of Reza Badramnia in his article on the Theatre of Red website yesterday, consider how absurd it would be to ask a master chef to prepare a Michelin-starred meal using only a microwave and ingredients past their expiration date. It's pretty fitting, isn't it? It seems completely preposterous, it's illogical, but yet it's the exact same situation. Say what you will about his openness in press conferences, his passion and desire not to hide behind false ideals, or even deviate from an agreed plan to implement his philosophy in the Northwest. This is a man who genuinely cares about the task at hand. It's not about money for him, and I have it on good authority that he would happily walk and wave goodbye to money instead of sitting idly by and collecting a paycheck while his legacy is being tarnished. We see this when he immediately jumps to aid staff and their family regarding attendance at finals. Individuals that I speak with daily that are at Carrington cannot say enough good things about this man. It's not just how nice he is or how approachable he is for staff, media, and regular Joes. It's his passion and willingness to adhere to what he believes is the correct approach. I'm told that his system and his style are about as close to a perfect footballing science as any of the ground staff have ever witnessed. And there is a genuine belief that he will prevail and the football club will return to its past glories. That is a view that is shared by the dressing room and the likes of Matthijs and Liam Delap, who are in talks to move to the football club. To clarify something as well, and to categorically rule out this nonsensical narrative about his future being discussed regardless of the outcome of the Europa League final, it is just that. It is nonsense. The board and owners are 100% committed to backing this man in the summer. I've been told this for several weeks, and it was reiterated to me again this morning. Truthfully, the biggest worry many have at the ground level is a prospect of him actually walking away himself, and that comes from this stance if there is not a unified approach towards changing the culture at the football club. That has been shared with me by several individuals close to and around the club, and it remains the case this morning. But you know this, don't you? Because it's something that he won't stop talking about. And despite pockets of frustration from supporters, social media accounts, and well-known journalists, surely it is better to be fully informed, people.
Since I arrived here, I'm always talking about the standards. And I cannot see the team having these results, especially in Premier League, and not say nothing and not take the responsibility. It's just that I have a clear idea what to do. I understand the problems of the team, so I'm far from quitting. What I'm saying is that we need to perform. And we had this season, in the future, we need to perform. Or else they will change us. That is normal thing. So, especially after a match, was my feeling, and it still is my feeling today. Of course, I understand the context. I understand that we are not fighting for nothing and we are focused on the Europa League, but we cannot get used to that. So if I have to say that every week, I will say every week is my job. I understand that I'm manager of this big club, and that is a problem. It's not okay. No matter what, even if it is a pre-season match, we need to win it.
So, contrary to the skewed opinions and beliefs of several would-be superstars, Amorim remains confident in his ability and the collective ideology of his team as they prepare for that Friday night trip to Chelsea before Wednesday's return to Bilbao for a monumentally important Europa League final against Spurs. We're entering that fine line between maintaining player fitness and ensuring that we don't incur further issues, like an initially worrying injury to Leny Yoro in an otherwise insignificant outing against West Ham. Ahead of sitting down a few moments ago to speak, I had put a brief opportunity out to handle some listener questions because, quite frankly, I never have the time to unpack any of them while I'm chatting with the guests that I bring on this show. And as I'm preparing to speak, I have just received one that ties in with the majority of what's been discussed. And I suppose at this time, it's probably a good time to remind anybody listening of the email to get in touch outside of socials if you'd ever like to send anything through yourselves. And it is editor@theatre-of-red.com. And Tom Primrose, who hails from just outside Birmingham, is an avid Red for over 40 years. He asks, do you believe Amorim's stubbornness will eventually catch up with him regarding his insistence to stick to his guns, despite the most shocking domestic results we could have imagined? Because on to say, don't get me wrong, I'm pleased to see a man with a backbone, and there appears to be light at the end of the tunnel regarding a recognisable form of football. But at what point is enough actually enough? Well, firstly, thank you for getting in touch and listening, Tom. I obviously appreciate the time and the support. I really, really do. I know I have somewhat dived into this already, so I won't double back on what I've already stated, but I will instead try to add to it with this. My viewpoint on Amorim and his intentions for this team has never changed. When he first arrived, he was very clear about his desire to implement his strategy and to embrace the likely pain when it was initially found out because of an insufficient squad to bolster his formation and philosophy. Now, because of this, I immediately anticipated the inevitable pain to come. And I was very vocal about this, even tweeting about the comparisons between Ten Hag and Amorim from Ajax to Sporting, inciting their win percentages, domestic successes, and the necessity to embrace short-term pain. I won't applaud the domestic capitulation or the shockingly low amount of victories to his name. However, I will applaud his insistence on not compromising on his system to suit a collection of players that he doesn't want or that don't fit the requirements in moving forward, especially when many of them will not be there after the summer. Let's just be honest about that. And to elaborate further, let's say that he was to fold and he was to follow suit in the likes of David Moyes or Eric Ten Hag. We would likely inherit a win here, a draw there, and then an inevitable loss to come, all while complaining about a lack of a clear system and a style to call our own. You're then presented with the scenario where a once-off win will supply ammunition to those who expect immediate success, and it dilutes his power and responsibility in making managerial decisions and moving forward, because he's shifting to accommodate underperforming prima donnas. And when has that ever worked before? I'll ask you this, and anybody else listening. Of the greatest managers that we have witnessed in the game, taking Sir Matt Busby and Sir Alex Ferguson as the prime examples for this conversation, did they routinely abandon their ideals for a cluster of players who were unwilling or unable to buy into their system? It's why I staunchly support the process that we're witnessing, albeit I'm not entirely happy with the endless defeats, and I would like to see 3 points here and there. While I move on to the next one, it is a second question from the hugely popular Twitter account by the name of United Exclusive, and I think it follows into this one perfectly. He says, given Manchester United's shift under Ruben Amorim and the club's financial restraints, how do you see their transfer strategy evolving in the 2025 summer window? Again, thank you for taking the time, and I'd obviously like to say as well, keep up the good work yourself. I think this is a great question, and it's one that supplies a perfect backdrop for what is to come under this new hierarchy. Take the words of Jim Radcliffe last year, when pressed about the prospect of buying Mbappe or another player of that ilk. He was very clear in highlighting that this will not solve the problem at Manchester United. Instead, the aim is to build a balanced squad and then move to complement that unit with a couple of Mbappe-like acquisitions. Look at the squad now. Players like Ahmad, Bruno, Mount, Ugarte, Menu, De Ligt, Yoro, Martinez, they all jump off the page. But then we factor in the shrewd January signings like Aiden Heaven and Patrick Dorgu. What are these guys? These are young footballers who are versatile and they possess ample room for growth. When I mention versatility, I know Aiden Heaven is a central defender, but he's able to operate across that backline. Furthermore, at an academy level, for those who have followed him, he is also adept at moving further forward and playing in that sort of central defensive midfield position. That fits in perfectly with what Amorim is trying to achieve with three centre-backs, because it's always pivotal, and having one of those be able to move farther forward and be comfortable on the ball. Get a look at Patrick Dorgu. He's this versatile, raw attacking fullback who can play either left or right, and also has capabilities in filling in higher up the field. When you extend from that and you look at Matthijs Cunha and Liam Delap, Cunha, what is he? A proven elite attacker for club and country with a flair for goal scoring, attacking knowledge, and an ability to fit this intricate system. Maybe he is the one differential in all of this, because with Delap, a talented English attacker, he's got acres of experience to gain, but he's already attracting the attention of multiple top-tier clubs because of what he can offer now and potentially what he can offer into the future. It's not the wildest thing to consider his growth into the next great English number 9. And to factor that And to think that you'd be able to acquire him for as little as £30 million in a modern game, I mean, it would seem absolutely absurd to ignore that. So, with the exception of Cunha, who adds immediate proven quality in Premier League steel, these are all young players, all of whom improve the squad and can potentially move present starters to the bench where they can grow and develop their skills alongside better players. Or these guys that come in will go to the bench and further bolster the options and inadvertently improving Amorim's overall options. And the strategy will undoubtedly focus on acquiring younger players with a ceiling to grow. Those who possess this aforementioned versatility to accommodate more than one playing option. And we've seen this with what we have already covered. We broke it exclusively several months ago with the club's interest in Roger Fernandes. And that really came to fruition following Giovanni Quenda's decision. But this was always an option because of the similarity in playing styles coupled with the lower transfer fee and the willingness for Braga to work on a scaled financial platform that allows repayments over full fee up front to accommodate the ever-growing Premier League profit and sustainability rules. So in short, what we're looking at with a transfer strategy for 2025 and onward is we're looking at a new dynamic that will attempt to purchase talent with a considered platform for further growth, accompanying the ability for the club to scale payments to allow multiple acquisitions at a time. Obviously, so much of this is going to depend on European participation and the outgoing of several first-team players who earn an extravagant amount. But that is what I have been categorically told from the ground, and I do expect it to continue into the summer and beyond. So keep an eye on those younger players, those in the ilk of Roger Fernandes, as I've stated, and also just draw back in January and look at Aidan Heaven and look at Patrick Dorgu, and this is what we can look forward to. And then when Amorim has this squad that is comfortable, that is talented, that is versatile and youthful, full of athletes, then we can start seeing those Mbappe-like signings to come in and complement it, hopefully deliver the type of success that Amorim is looking for. On to a query about team selection ahead of Chelsea in the final in Bilbao. Matt Williams has wrote in, and he says, I want to pick your brain, Shaun. And good luck with that one, right? But surely Chelsea will be playing as much of a second string side as humanly possible when they meet United, with all eyes set on Spurs. But he's asking how I envisage this lineup if and when we will receive clarification about Yoro's availability for the game, and what do I know about Joshua Zirkzee and Matthijs de Ligt. Firstly, I would suspect that we see a starting 11 of players who can still earn a shout for Bilbao against Chelsea with some youthful names in the mix. Amorim has all but confirmed this already. Given what we have seen with Yoro after West Ham, it's obviously imperative that we have a full team to select from midweek. The largest factor for me heading into Wednesday's final is, will the manager go with those who are tried and tested in major finals, those wily veterans, if you will? Because despite the league standing and the public opinion about a combined 11 between the sides, just look at the differences in the calibre of players who are well experienced in multiple European finals for club and country. Players like Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Nazir Mazraoui, Casemiro, Mason Mount, who played an absolutely pivotal role in a Champions League win. These are invaluable names alongside the likes of Bruno and even Alejandro Garnacho, who, despite what many believe may be one of his final fixtures for the club, can offer an awful lot despite his tender age because he's been there and he's done it already. I'm pretty confident that we can name Spurs starting 11, even now, because they've been so unlucky with several injuries. But despite what the media will try to sell you, United have endured plenty of their own injuries, and don't forget that. That said, I would expect the likes of Shaw and Casemiro to play huge roles, with Ahmad also having the capabilities to win the game by himself with a moment of magic, as we've seen time and time again this season. I'd like to sort of state on one thing, because I've mentioned him already. I'm a huge admirer of Dorgu and what he can bring to this squad as he continues to grow. But if Yoro is fit and able, which at present I'm advised he's coming along rather well and has been walking unaided alongside his individual training sessions, I do believe Shaw can offer a massive amount on the left flank with Ahmad on the right in that particular game. Dorgu then can obviously supply a lot of pace and desire from the bench, as can somebody like a returning Dallo, who I don't think will start, but could feature for 20 to 30 minutes from the bench. And like that, I don't believe Zirkzee will make the starting cut due to his layoff. And the biggest thing to know about all of this, it's important to note that he is a different type of concern to the likes of Yoro. It's not a worry about injury with him. It's about regaining fitness. And a lot of people continuously overlook this when they talk about players coming back. That's not something that we would need to worry about with Yoro. It's not a fitness issue. It's an injury issue, whereas Zirkzee has had a prolonged layoff. I would like to also say that I feel so sorry for Matthijs de Ligt in all of this. I think he's been superb in recent months, and he would have been one of the first names on the team sheet. He's such a good player, and this injury came at an awful time. That said, European squads can offer untold surprises, and there are people within the club who have not yet ruled him out. As I've discussed with a colleague in the last week, I would also say don't be surprised by any player making the most of the final opportunity, given the timing at the end of the season, coupled with the adrenaline of a showpiece outing and the undeniable accommodation of injections to aid for 60 to 90 minutes of football. Because contrary to what some may say, this is a regular practice in the game even today. And one final question from Paul Reid about Mr. Kobbie Mainoo. And he says, "Hey Shaun, you were amongst the first to break news of Kobbie's contractual talks months ago, and you have returned to that this week. Despite what some may think, I love the kid and I pray he stays. Is it still likely?" In short, yes. I'm told it's still more than likely that he signs on with the club, and he has never had the desire to leave. Now, don't get me wrong. When you're factoring everything into account, looking at finances, the allure of pure profit is always a tantalising prospect for Manchester United, given the state of play at the club. And there have been considerations about his sale, but his quality is obvious. As we were advised months ago, barring travesty, he would sign on and remain at the club. This has not changed, and the hold-up is largely down to the financial team trying to get the best package available. And realistically, why wouldn't they? I've read multiple reports about people wishing that he was sold and declaring that he's incapable of fitting this new intricate system. All the while, they tend to forget the injury that he's after sustaining and the necessity to get back to match fitness within a squad that has all of its eggs in a continental basket. Personally, I view him as a 10 within this particular structure and the constraints that are there. And I believe that his technical ability and close control, they're just superb. Like many, he's had to endure a culture shock. And that comes with a new system and the transition from requirements. But so many people just forget that he's young and he's still learning off the back of a pretty prolonged injury. But make no mistake, the club wants him to stay and the player wants to stay. And that's what we're told. And as of now, I would be extremely surprised if something else was to occur. And on that, I will clock off. I'll say thank you for spending your time with me throughout the past year. For those who know me, you'll understand how much of a release that this has been following a life-changing injury that has shaped a part of me. The ability to chat about this football club with so many wonderful people is absolutely unmatched, with everybody from Ben Jacobs to Henry Winter, Sam Pilger, Phil Brown, Jamie Jackson,